He kissed me on camera, but his eyes kept drifting. That was the first sign. The first tiny crack in the fantasy I'd worked so hard to believe. Eli, my husband, my partner, my supposed ride or die, stood beside me at the influencer meetup, smiling, laughing, radiating charm. But his gaze? It kept flicking across the room, searching, waiting, wanting. I adjusted my hair, smoothed my dress, kept the perfect supportive wife smile glued to my face. We were surrounded by cameras, phones, fans, managers, a whole curated world watching. Our every move. Eli wrapped his arm around me, flashing his perfect grin, whispering, "Babe, we're killing it." My stomach twisted. Cam hovered nearby, eyes sharp, catching every glance Eli shot across the crowd. She leaned in at one point, murmuring low, "He's looking for her." I swallowed hard, pasting on another smile. "Don't, Cam," I whispered. Not here. The room sparkled with influencers, creators, photographers, all buzzing with energy and ambition. I watched Eli light up as people approached. His charm turned to full volume, his laugh ringing out too easily. I stayed at his side, the quiet anchor, the woman behind the man. But I felt the shift, the growing distance, the way his fingers barely brushed mine, the way his attention drifted mid-conversation, the way he checked his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. I kept telling myself it was just stress, just work, just the life we'd chosen. A wife like me should just clap and smile, right? That's what I told myself as Eli beamed for photos, as Brielle, the flirty fashion influencer I'd heard whispers about, entered the room, glowing, laughing, magnetic. I felt my stomach drop as Eli's entire posture sharpened, his head tilting just slightly, his eyes locking onto her. I reached for his hand gently, grounding myself. He squeezed my fingers briefly, his smile still wide, his attention still slipping. My chest ached, my throat tightened, but I stayed in place. I played the part. The night stretched on, each moment heavier than the last. I watched Eli navigate the crowd effortlessly, watched Brielle circle closer, watched the space between them narrow. My heart pounded, my fingers shook, but I kept smiling until the moment they touched, and everything I'd been trying to deny came crashing down. A wife like me should just clap and smile, right? That's what I kept whispering to myself, even as I watched Eli's hand brush casually, too casually, against Brielle's. It was a tiny touch, a passing moment, but it sent a jolt through my chest like lightning. My breath hitched. My fingers froze on my champagne glass. Cam appeared at my side instantly, her eyes sharp, her voice low. "Harper, you saw that, right?" I forced a tight smile, feeling my stomach churn. "It's nothing," I murmured. "It's just part of the act." But even I didn't believe myself. Brielle laughed softly, her head tilting toward Eli, her fingers lingering on his arm a moment longer than necessary. Eli leaned in, smiling, saying something only she could hear. My heart hammered so loudly I could barely process the noise of the room anymore. I excused myself, slipping through the crowd, finding a quiet corner near the back. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, fingers hovering over the screen. Sarah's texts popped up. "How's the event? Are you okay?" I started typing, then stopped, staring blankly at the blinking cursor. Eli had always been ambitious, always drawn to the spotlight, always craving attention. I used to tell myself that was part of his magic, the way he lit up a room, the way people gravitated toward him. But lately, I wondered if I was just the accessory in his perfect, curated life. I peeked around the corner, heart thudding painfully as I saw Eli and Brielle laughing together, his hand brushing her lower back, her head thrown back in easy, effortless joy. My throat tightened, My eyes stung. Cam found me again, her face tense, her voice fierce. "Harper, you can't keep pretending you don't see it." I let out a shaky breath, shaking my head. "Cam, it's just for the cameras. It's just," but I trailed off. My words tasted hollow. I remembered the way Eli used to look at me. Soft, focused, like I was the only thing in the room. That gaze hadn't landed on me in months. And now, it was fully locked on someone else. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Sarah. "Harper, what's happening?" My fingers hovered, breath shaky, chest aching. I whispered to myself, "He lied. He lied, and I've been helping him lie." And I knew something had to break tonight. He lied, and I caught him red-handed. That moment hit me like a punch to the chest as I stood frozen, watching Eli's fingers slip easily into Brielle's hand. Not for the cameras, not for the fans. This was real, intimate, soft, unmistakable. My throat closed up, my heart slammed painfully, and my stomach turned over so hard I thought I might be sick. I stepped back slightly, pressing into the wall, feeling the cool surface ground me. My breath came in shallow pulls, my chest tight, my eyes burning. Cam appeared at my side again, her voice sharp. "You see it now, don't you?" I nodded slowly, the bitter taste of truth flooding my mouth. I wanted to march up, to scream, to tear the whole illusion apart, but my feet stayed planted, my hands clenched tightly at my sides. Eli laughed softly, his thumb brushing over Brielle's knuckles as she leaned in, her lips grazing his ear. My vision blurred, tears threatening, but I forced them back. I thought of all the nights I'd stayed up late editing his videos, all the brand deals I'd helped manage, all the fake smiles I'd plastered on for our perfect couple posts. My chest ached with the weight of betrayal, of humiliation, of heartbreak. Cam touched my arm gently. "Harper, we need to leave." I shook my head slowly, something cold and sharp blooming in my chest. "No," I whispered. "Not yet." She looked at me, startled. I felt my lips curve into a faint, bitter smile. "I need to finish this." I reached into my purse, fingers brushing over the envelope tucked inside. Our wedding invitation. The one we'd kept reprinting for. Press kits, brand promotions, influencer giveaways. My heart pounded harder as I pulled it out slowly, feeling its weight settle in my palm. I stepped forward carefully, weaving through the crowd, each breath measured, each step steady. Eli didn't see me. Brielle didn't see me. They were too busy, too wrapped up in each other, too sure they were untouchable. I stopped a few feet away, watching them, my fingers tightening around the envelope. My stomach churned, my hands trembled. But under the heartbreak, a fierce, burning clarity rose. This wasn't love. This was betrayal dressed up as ambition, and I was done pretending. This wasn't love. It was performance. That truth pulsed in my chest as I stood just feet away, watching Eli and Brielle laugh, flirt, touch, like I didn't exist. Like our vows, our home, our years together were props in his influencer act. My fists clenched tighter around the wedding invitation, the thick paper bending slightly under the pressure. I could hear Cam's voice faintly behind me. Urgent. Worried. "Harper, come on. Let's go. He's not worth it." But I didn't move. I couldn't. Something sharp, something hard had settled in my bones. For so long I'd been the silent supporter, the one who smiled for the cameras, the one who swallowed, hurt and called it love. But tonight, I wasn't going to be silent. I stepped closer, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack open. Eli finally glanced up, his easy grin faltering slightly when his eyes landed on me. Brielle followed his gaze, her lips parting in faint surprise, her fingers still loosely tangled with his. For a split second, no one spoke. The music thumped in the background, cameras flashed around us, conversations buzzed on. But in that little circle, it was dead silent. I smiled softly, tilting my head. "Having fun, babe?" I asked, my voice light, even. Eli's face twitched, a flicker of panic flashing through his eyes. "Harper, hey, it's not what it looks like." I let out a soft laugh, shaking my head. "Oh, Eli, it's exactly what it looks like." Brielle straightened slightly, her gaze sharpening, her lips curving into a faint smirk. I watched her, the casual confidence, the smug little tilt of her head. And for the first time, I didn't shrink. I didn't retreat. Smiled, because they had no idea. I held up the invitation slowly, watching Eli's eyes widen, his mouth parting as if to speak. "Remember this?" I murmured. "Our wedding, our promises, our forever?" His face paled. And then, with the smoothest flick of my wrist, I dropped the envelope right at Brielle's feet. The moment shattered like glass. They underestimated the woman holding receipts. I stood there, heart racing, but my face calm, watching the white envelope settle at Brielle's feet. Her eyes flickered down, then back up, confusion flashing across her face before the realization hit, slow, sharp, unmistakable. Eli let out a strangled, broken laugh. "Harper, wait, babe, can we just—" I turned my gaze on him, tilting my head slightly, my voice low. "No, Eli, we're past talking." His mouth opened, then closed, his hands fluttering slightly like he didn't know what to grab for first. Me, her, the crumbling pieces of his image. Brielle crouched down, picking up the envelope delicately, her brows arching as she flipped it over in her hands. "What's this?" she asked softly, almost playfully. I smiled faintly. "Our wedding invite. A little memento. You'll want to keep it, since you clearly made it part of your story." Around us, a few heads were turning, the energy shifting. I felt Cam's presence just behind me, her silent support radiating like a shield. My stomach twisted, my chest burned, but my hands stayed steady. For months, I'd played the background, let Eli craft the narrative, let the public see only what he wanted them to see. But I was done with that role. I was done being gaslighted, minimized, made small. Eli stepped forward, voice pleading. "Harper, baby, please, you're making this a bigger deal than—" I let out a sharp, brittle laugh. "Then what, Eli? Then you sneaking around with someone you swore was just a friend? Then you breaking every promise we made, while I stood in the wings helping you build your brand?" His face paled further. Brielle shifted slightly, her confidence flickering, her playful smirk slipping just a little. I saw the crack, and I felt the sharp, cold satisfaction of finally holding the truth in my hands. I slipped the second envelope, the one with the separation papers, from my purse, tapping it gently against my palm. Eli's eyes widened, his hands shooting up. No, Harper. Come on, let's not do this here." I smiled softly, my voice smooth as glass. "We're doing this exactly here, because tonight wasn't about keeping the peace. Tonight was about reclaiming every piece they tried to take." That was the moment everything changed. Eli's carefully built world, the polished influencer image, the curated couple posts, the charming public facade, cracked wide open in front of everyone. His hands hovered in the air, his mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I watched him, feeling the last pieces of my heartbreak burn away into something sharper. Brielle shifted uncomfortably, the envelope still in her hand, her playful confidence melting into visible nerves. I met her eyes calmly. "I just wanted you to know," I said softly. "You weren't as secret as you thought." She flushed, her lips parting, but no clever comeback arrived. Around us, the room grew quieter. Heads turning, whispers starting, the subtle ripple of public exposure beginning to spread. Eli glanced around, his charm faltering, his face pinched in panic. "Harper, let's talk outside, okay? Not here, please." I smiled faintly. I just smiled. Because he had no idea. I turned slowly to the small group nearest us, fellow influencers, managers, collaborators, all watching with wide, curious eyes. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I murmured smoothly, lifting my glass slightly. "It's been eye-opening." Eli let out a low, desperate sound. "Harper, stop, please, baby." I handed the separation papers to Cam, who stepped forward without hesitation, her fierce eyes never leaving Eli's crumbling face. "You'll want to look these over," I murmured. "We're done, Eli, and trust me, you'll need a better script for your fans." Brielle exhaled sharply, shaking her head, trying to recover her usual swagger. "You're being dramatic, Harper. This is between you two, not me." I tilted my head slightly, my voice soft but cutting. "Oh, honey, you walked into my marriage. You don't get to play innocent now." The whispers swelled louder, the eyes on us multiplied. Eli looked like he might faint. Cam looped her arm through mine, squeezing gently. "Ready, babe?" she whispered. I smiled, heart hammering but chest lifting, feeling the shift fully lock into place. I took one last, slow look at Eli, the man I'd loved, trusted, defended, forgiven, and let the weight of it all settle. My throat burned, my eyes stung, but my spine stayed straight. Because this wasn't a collapse. It was a decision, and I had made mine. I just smiled, because she had no idea. Neither of them did. Not Eli, not Brielle, as I turned calmly, linking my arm with Cam's, walking through the stunned, whispering crowd, like I was the one holding all the power now. And I was. Eli's voice cracked behind me, desperate, pleading. "Harper, please, baby, let's talk. We can fix this." I didn't stop. I didn't even glance back. Cam squeezed my arm tighter, her voice a soft anchor. "You're doing it, Harper. You're walking out on your terms." For so long I'd been the girl who stayed, the wife who forgave, who covered, who smiled, for the cameras who kept the brand alive even as my heart cracked quietly behind the scenes. But tonight, I became the woman who walked away. Brielle's laugh rang out faintly, nervous, sharp, cracking. "She's overreacting, Eli. She's just trying to make a scene." I paused briefly at the doorway, turning slightly, meeting her wide, glittering eyes. "Oh, honey," I murmured softly. "This isn't a scene." I held her gaze for one long, pulsing second, watching the moment she realized she'd underestimated me. Watching Eli shrink behind her, his hands, still outstretched, helpless. Then I turned fully, lifting my chin, walking out into the cool night air, the pulse of the music fading behind me. Outside, the city lights stretched out wide and glowing. I pulled in a shaky breath, feeling the first sharp rush of night air on my skin, feeling my chest expand in a way it hadn't in months. Cam handed me my coat, her eyes fierce, her hands steady. My phone buzzed wildly. Texts, missed calls, notifications. But I powered it off calmly, slipping it into my pocket, exhaling slowly. Eli's voice still echoed faintly in my mind, but I let it fade. He didn't get to reach me anymore. Cam called a car, her arm wrapping briefly around my shoulders. "Proud of you, H," she whispered. My throat tightened, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes, but I smiled through it. because for the first time, the heartbreak wasn't consuming me. It was clearing space for something stronger, something that belonged entirely to me. He chose the spotlight. I chose my freedom. That's the truth that echoed quietly in my mind as I sat by my window late that night, wrapped in a blanket, watching the city lights flicker softly below. My heart still ached, raw and sore, but under the pain was a growing sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Cam sat on the couch nearby, scrolling through her phone, keeping a watchful eye on me without hovering. "They're already trying to spin it," she murmured softly. "PR, statements, damage control." I let out a tired, quiet laugh, shaking my head. Of course they are. That's all he knows. I looked down at my phone, dozens of missed calls, dozens of texts. Eli, his manager, his friends. I powered it off again, setting it gently on the table, breathing out slowly. I wasn't going back to that noise, that chaos, that carefully staged world where my feelings were props and my heartbreak was hidden behind filters. For years, I had told myself this was love. That Eli's ambition, his craving for attention, his endless flirting were just part of who he was, part of the deal, part of the price I paid to stand beside him. But tonight, I understood something sharp and clear. Love doesn't gaslight you. Love doesn't betray you. Love doesn't make you smaller, so one person can shine brighter. I poured myself a glass of water, wrapping both hands around it, grounding myself in the quiet, the stillness, the reality of my own space. It hurt. God, it hurt. But it also felt clean, clear, right. I thought of Eli's face, his wide, desperate eyes as I walked away. I thought of Brielle's shock, her crumbling confidence. I thought of the crowd, the whispers, the shift, and I smiled, soft and tired, but real, because I had taken the one thing they never expected me to take, my power back. This wasn't the life I thought I'd be living when I said I do. But standing here now, wrapped in the quiet, in the aftermath, I realized it was a life I could finally fully call my own. He chose the spotlight, and I chose myself.